Firstly, thanks to Renato for reminding me to get on and create a short tutorial about adding a 3D texture to the 2D texture that we created in the last tutorial using the inbuilt facility of Photoshop. If you go into Photoshop, so here's your stone texture, and you go to Filter, 3D, you'll see two options. You've got Generate Bump, Height Map, and Generate Normal Map. And both these things are the same kind of thing, but they work in slightly different ways. The bump map, the traditional bump map, is just a grayscale image which tells your computer program what's the high and what's the low on the image. The advantage to these is they're very easy to edit if there's slight errors. The normal map is a sort of more modern equivalent, and it uses RGB components telling the highs and lows to your program. So essentially works in the same way and is supposedly superior, but it is much harder to correct errors in due to the fact that there's color variations all over the shop. Can be interesting. But let's just see how well it works. So what we're going to do is go Generate Normal Map, which is the tricky to edit one, and I think you'll see why. And you get this dialog box. And this is just a quick and dirty tutorial, so we're not going to go into too much detail. But the real basic ones are things such as the actual scale, which is self-explanatory. It's how deep you want this texture to be. And this is basically your normal map. So what we're going to do now is File, Export. I'm going to export it as a ping for the only reason that I like pings. And this is stone texture normal map. And there we go. So that's that. I'm going to show you first in After Effects, and then we'll have a little look in Blender as well about actually adding and using this map. So here we are in After Effects, and what I'm going to do is go over to, well, create a new solid, and I tend to make them green so that I can actually see or identify which one is element. Just makes it easier in a stack of layers. Drag element onto it and then open the scene properties. So here's your usual layout, and for this example it's easiest just to load up a plane. So I'm going to type in plane, locate one and drag it into the viewport, and I'm going to add a shiny texture because this reacts very well to light, so you can see straight away how the normal map is affecting this. So click on the actual texture, go to the diffuse and navigate to where that is. It's on the SSD, stone texture, and then go OK. Now if I move this around the viewport, you can see by the light hitting it that this is a flat object. So what the normal map or the bump map is going to do is it's going to tell the light how to react to the surface. So we go down to the normal bump map, click again there, and we're going to navigate to the normal map that we created earlier in Photoshop, which is there. And straight away you can see exactly what that's done in the way the light is now reacting to the surface. It's hitting the peaks, it's avoiding the trough, which is pretty cool. And you can imagine how much work this would save you if you were, say, doing a brick wall where you need relief off the mortar, the dips of the mortar and the actual surface of the brick. Very easily you could create a convincing 3D surface without having to model every last part of that brick wall. So here we are in Blender. So I've got the default cube here. So what I'm going to do first is assign a material to it. Well, it's got material assigned anyway there. The difference is where it says base color, I want to click this little circle and then I want to get image texture. And you see now this changes underneath, and you can now open your stone image that you've got, which is there. Now you won't see it in this viewport here. You'll need to put it into either your rendered one or your viewport shading, depending. So that's the first thing. But exactly as in Element, you can see that there's no sort of 3D information or light information on this stone texture. So how do we do that? So what I do is go into your shading menu here, and you can see these different nodes, which all look very scary initially, but they kind of make sense because it's like a flowchart almost of how the image works. So let's have a look at this. So far you've got your stone texture image which is being fed into the principal shader, so that's why you can see this. What we're going to do is add the light information, if you like. So click in this area here, Shift A, and I'd just, in fact, don't even do that. You can just duplicate this one. Shift D, then you've got another one. We're now going to select the stone texture normal map, and we're going to change this to non-color because it always defaults to sRGB. We want non-color. So this is your height information and it's a normal map. So all we need to do is Shift A, go for normal. Just can't type today. Here we go. Normal. Put that here. You're going to feed the color information of that into the color information in the normal map, and then the normal into the normal on your principal shader. And you could straight away see that something happened there. And if I adjust the strength, you can see how the light is being affected now by this. And it's a lot nicer. It's much more of a 3D look. And of course, you've got basic controls back in your object properties where you can increase the shininess of this, turn down the roughness, and make it react even more to the light. But as you can see, that's quite a convincing surface texture. And of course, these can be keyframed. So if you were simulating rain falling on this cube, then over time you could increase the metallic property and decrease the roughness to sort of simulate it becoming wet. Things like that. It's all down to your imagination. So I know this is a very, very basic sort of overview, but at least you can see that within Photoshop, you've got a pretty good tool in generating your normal maps. And it's fast and it's quite a lot of fun. So hopefully that's been food for thought.